Okay, here we go, everybody. This is the sounds of Monchichi Rex. This is episode 74 over of the Real Resilience Talk podcast. And tonight, I am joined with just a man I respect a whole lot. I've admired for a very long time, and it was there for me at a time when, man, I was losing it. But he always kept me on the straight and narrow, and he's a very accomplished man and a very dedicated. Just proof of, to me, repurposing your service after you leave the service. So many of us, and we'll get into it, we stagnate, and we're, maybe has-beens, some would argue, and I hope I'll never be one, and that's not a diss to anyone, but this man has repurposed his service and is doing big things in the world. So just like I say, the Real Resilience Talk. So we got an awesome guest, Mr. Karl, here with us tonight. And also, I just want to say, first up front, the First Amendment is in full effect. These are two card-carrying Americans who have defended the First Amendment, so we shall expend it. Now, also, in that being said, we are speaking from our experience and the things that we know and how we feel. Nothing we say is an endorsement from or any kind of ties to any official organization, to include the Dow, the Department of War, or anything else. But we will reference our experience. We'll probably endorse them based on our experiences, but nothing we say is a reflection of or endorsement from any official organization. With that said, and without further ado, I'm going to pass it over to my man Karl right off the top, man. Tell us a little bit about yourself and also how you define the word resilience.
So good to see you again, man. Yeah, that was quite an introduction. So now I got to end the rest of my life here by living up to it is what's going to happen. So, yeah, man. So a little bit about me. So obviously I'm a retired Marine. So I think that's like the easy way to introduce yourself, right? But I grew up in the Tampa Bay area in Florida and grew up in, I guess, your typical like 80s kind of situation for a part of it anyway. And so, parents not together, you get to take the car ride from one to the other, do the drop off, all that stuff. There's some rocky patches. We might get into what those are as we continue to converse here, but there were some rocky patches and then some transitions that occurred there. I thought I had it all figured out, man. And I went a really long time on people giving you compliments, and you can kind of live in that world where you hear you're so smart, you got all this, whatever, you're in the gifted program, and you get into these classes and you're doing like pretty well in school. And for me, what that did is it sort of set me up. It became a prison that I lived in. And what I feel like that turned into was a hall pass to not try very hard. And so I spent a lot more of my time focused on other things that were a bit more challenging. And so I was fucking around doing dumb stuff for a while. And I ended up dropping out of high school, the beginning of my second semester, my senior year. And I kind of shocked a few people when I did that, because I laid out like there was a pretty good facade that existed, right? Like I didn't let anybody into this little world that I was living in where I wasn't passing my classes and I was barely hanging on. And then I did some other silly things, hanging out with some shady characters a little bit, doing some stupid things after what would have been, my summer vacation. And I'd broken into my parents' house to fix my buddy's car. We were doing an oil change on his car. My dad was an engineer, so he had like every tool in the world. And while we were in this house that I shouldn't be in, I ordered a pizza. I don't know if you remember back in the day, sometimes you'd hang your phone up and it would ring back and you would and like the line wasn't cleared or whatever. So I'm like, whatever. So I picked the phone up, it rang back immediately. And it was a recruiter. It was a Marine recruiter. And
at the house, technically, you had just broken into.
Well, I mean, it was my parents' house, but yeah, I didn't live there anymore. I hadn't lived there in like 6 or 8 months.
It was an unlawful entry at the time.
It was, it wasn't. I was not invited. Right. They were out of town. Nobody actually told me no, but So anyhow, I answered the phone. This dude talks to me, and he's like, "Hey, have you ever thought about joining the Marine Corps?" No, and certainly hadn't. And we chatted for a couple minutes, and he, got me to meet him at the recruiting office, and so I did that. And I think that was on the 28th of October. And on the 9th of November, I was standing on the yellow footprints in Parris Island, South Carolina. And it was one of those things where it's like, dude, there's only so many places that we can get people with a GED. This is your deal. And so that was that. And I knew absolutely nothing of what to expect. I had done zero preparation. I was just being a fool. And so I showed up and I went to a concert the night before. So I failed my hearing test. And yeah, and so there was that. And then there was, whatever, about probably like 10 or so years of me doing the same thing in the Marine Corps that I had been doing for my entire life, man, which was doing good enough to be better than most. And I say that humbly. Yeah. Just on, potential basically, right? So you're kind of coasting. Your baseline might be a little bit higher. I was a, physically gifted runner. Not that I'm the best, but I'm decent. Was. And so those types of things, just worked out for me. I could read a manual and figure it out and go from there. And so I did okay. And then I had some bumps in the Marine Corps, and I got medically dropped from drill instructor school, which was like a punch in the stomach. Interestingly enough, that is where I met one of your other guests, Mr. Twig, was in my drill instructor school class.
Yeah.
And he and I haven't talked since then, actually, which is really funny, but I know we're on socials or whatever. But, and then I was like, you can kind of write that stuff off a little bit. So I was like, well, it wasn't my fault. It was a medical drop. There was probably more I could have done if I'm being honest. And then a year goes by and I get in zone for gunnery sergeant and I got passed over for promotion to gunnery sergeant my first look. And I'm just like, how the freaking hell does this happen? And I'm like, this is not my story, man. Like, this ain't it. And again, I could sit there and point to, there's a medical disenrollment from drill instructor school. I had a guy write a fit rep on me that he was writing to his profile. So he screwed up the numbers, whatever. It looked, if you read what he wrote, I was, the Messiah. If you saw where the numbers were, I was, I barely had my head above water, like literally my nose and mouth above the surface of the water. And so, dude, it's a blow to your ego for sure. And then I kind of reeled from that for a little while, if I'm being honest. And it just took some, to be honest, it was right about the time that you and I met, where I got around some people and I realized, like, hey, if you're going to be about this shit, man, you gotta put some effort into this. You can't just coast anymore. And there were some really good people that were where we were at, man. And some people that, were inclusive and welcomed me when they didn't necessarily need to. And I just kind of was like, yeah, we're done fucking around and it's time to start working. And I used to look at it from a perspective of, like, you look in your section or whatever, and you're like, oh, I'm better than, whatever, statistically, right? My PFT is better, whatever. And so I would compare to other people, and I never looked in the mirror and said, what can you get out of you? Yeah. And that was the point where that started to happen. We deployed, I think you PCS maybe, but we deployed, you went to OCS actually. Yep. And then we deployed, and on that deployment, there was a dude that I used to get up and run the wire every day. And this dude that was in our unit there, he was like, hey man, how about I'll run with you and you come to the gym with me? And I was like, fuck, like, all right. And I didn't work out, I was scrawny, you remember? And I started working out with this dude. I think we ran twice. We worked out every day until we came home. And so it was just like, I use that as like that was the reality of me getting uncomfortable in learning to become comfortable in an environment that was uncomfortable for me. You can't hide from that shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're standing there holding something in your hand that's got numbers on it. Like, you're exposed. Everybody knows what you're lifting. Mm-hmm. And you figure out, like, that was new to me, but you figure out that, like, everybody around you, nobody gives a shit.
Nobody does. That's right.
You're going through your thing and it's just, you're there. And I think that was an eye-opening thing for me. And then, dude, I just freaking put my foot on the damn gas and just kept it going. And I look back, recently I've looked back on some of the things that I did, and I always, I say I was coasting, but what I was coasting on was that I was also striving for perfection in the areas that I was just naturally gifted in. Yeah. And I held people to that same account. And the things that were uncomfortable and difficult for me, I sort of moved them to the side and didn't bring them up. And so there was a lot of that. there was some valuable lessons that I've recently learned about safety and leadership and things that I had done. I thought I was a good, a good role model for the people around me. And I realized that there were some things that I had done where as long as they were in my good standing, they were good. Mm-hmm. If they did something that they thought that I was going to have some sort of a reaction to, they hid it from me. And I was like, yep, that's a lack of emotional safety. That's a lack of being a good leader where you're allowing vulnerability to creep in and allow people to be who they, authentically are. And so there's been a bit of that on the back end. And then, I did some things on the back end of my career in the Marine Corps too, where again, I was kind of, allowed into an environment where there were many times where I was the only enlisted dude in the room doing operational planning for a geographical combatant commander. And I knew that I earned my place there. And so that was a positive, right? But there was a lot of growth that still needed to happen. I started reading a lot. I thought that the idea was that I would just cover up my high school GED and that failure and the failures of fill in the blank, whatever it is, that you could like cover them up and they would never, exist again. And so I went to school and I got a couple of degrees and I thought that that was going to be the answer. And again, it's like putting on a shirt, you know what I mean? Like you still are who you are. It doesn't matter what shirt you're wearing. And so there's a bit of that as well. But I've really, in the last couple of years, started to try to like hone myself as a better, I don't say better, a more impactful and effective leader. And in doing that, you become aware of your own shadow is what I refer to him as, is the guy that, was probably born as a scared kid and went through all kinds of other bullshit. And that guy's still there, man. And it doesn't go away. You got to learn to live with it on some level. And that's what I'm trying to do. There's all sorts of things that are out there, right? Like control your anger, control your responses, all of those types of things. And as I'm going through this and why you in this particular medium stood out to me was that a couple of years ago, a little over 2 years ago, so 2 years on Halloween, my dad took his own life at 79 years old, which at the time was kind of a surprise, if I can be honest. And then now as I kind of look back on it in hindsight, you sort of see, it's like the 8-day brief, right? Like you can be like, oh, well, I should have seen this, or I should have noticed that, or whatever it is. And it's just like, motherfucker, like, should have seen it, right? And then you put yourself in the grief of shoulda, coulda, woulda. We've experienced that. I've experienced it a bunch of times with young Marines that we grew up with or that we worked with as well. Mm-hmm. And so kind of trying to unpack all of that stuff and figure out how I grow from that. What do I take from that? There's a lot of tough things. I heard a Steve Harvey quote not long ago that was talking about the real challenge of losing your father is that it's the only man on the planet that wants you to do better than he does. And when you recognize that, it's powerful stuff, man. And so, it kind of is like, well, it's time to saddle up and roll because there's your wife or whatever will cheer for you, but it's different when it's, I think, a man. And so it just is what it is. And so here we are. And like I said, I've tried to deal with the grief as best as I can. It's funny, I actually was in contact with somebody else, this woman named Alexi, and she has a podcast as well. And I just heard her the other day say something that mirrors what you say, which is if you don't deal with your grief is going to deal with you. And I know you say that same thing, but you replace with pain. And it's obviously true. I've heard multiple people now say the same thing. And so there's parts of that. And anyway, and so that is a little bit about me. And I think that's a lot about me, but yeah, resilience, man. So resilience to me, and I've had some time to think about this. And I know I told you I was writing some notes down as I've gone through some things. And so I'm going to cheat probably a little bit here as I go through this, but I think that we believe this fallacy that like some people are just resilient.
Yeah.
And the reality is that none of us choose where we start, right? And the idea that somebody might be a little bit more, maybe some people are gifted a little bit stronger, whatever, but you still got to work for it, right? That's right. And so I think resilience is it's a muscle. It is a skill that you build. And so it's not toughness or bravado or going on some sort of an emotional lockdown and being untouchable. It's really the ability to like just show up when you don't want to. It is acting when you're not certain about what the outcome is, to continue while you realize that you're imperfect. And I wrote this quote down that I saw, or I don't even know if I saw it or if it was one of my own, but it's like humility is built in the pain and struggle of being a beginner. And that resilience is created when you continue to repeat the steps anyway. And that is kind of where I look at, these sort of things. And when we talk about resilience, it's not about necessarily being like unbreakable. It's about being repairable. And so, not to continue to repeat myself over and over again, because I will, I'll hard stop that. And that's my pseudo definition of what I think resilience is.
Hey man, I just tell you, thank you, thank you. I don't know for anybody that's out there listening, like you're proof to me, man. This isn't curry and favor or kissing ass. There is so much courage in being vulnerable and sharing yourself and sharing your story. Because I think if you follow this man on social media or on the LinkedIn, you'll just see this successful retired Marine who's still out there getting after it all the time. But when you sit here and you're willing to share your story, your pain, and then admit where you were, like you described as coasting, and that comparison game, and just being like, well, I'm better than the ones around me, or I'm better than the average, so I'm doing pretty good. But then to get smacked in the face and say, no, I need to really look in the mirror, and you did that, and you do that,
Yeah.
and say, am I really giving my best, like to extract the full potential out of me? Forget everybody else. Forget the standard or the status quo or whatever the thing may be. Am I being the best Karl? Am I being the best Cam that I could be? And I think that is actually self-actualizing. But I think you only get there with that humility that you described. And the way you described resilience as a muscle, did y'all hear that, y'all? Resilience is a muscle. I say this often. It's like pull-ups in algebra. Like
Yep.
if you don't use it, you lose it.
You
Like
lose
you
it.
just lose it, right? And I'm a fellow alumni of the GED community, so
Awesome.
I'm with you. Yeah,
Here we are.
yeah, here we are, man. Who would have thought, right? You know what I mean? So anybody out there, if you're starting off, you don't control where you start, but if you're starting off with maybe a different starting place, you never know how far you can go if you just apply some resilience. But don't get complacent.
Sensei, brother, is
It
the
kills.
I mean, that's, we've all seen that sign, or not all, whatever,
Mad
but
Dog,
that sign has been around everywhere when you walk around. And I was thinking about it, I was like, complacency is always just right around the corner. It's a
Yes, it
pretty,
is.
it can be a pretty appealing, off ramp. You know what I'm saying?
For sure.
And the reality is that it's paralyzing.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
It devoids you of your potential. And for me, what it did is it literally solidified the belief that like talent was something more than an illusion.
Mm.
And that's those are like the tough parts of it, right? Because your ego wants to tell you all of these things. Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
You scored this on a test or whatever. This, you don't have to work as hard as somebody else on this thing. And the reality is like, as true as that may be, you think you've arrived?
Yeah, right.
Like, what do they say? Like stagnation is the beginning of decline.
It is. It is.
So, if you're coasting, you're essentially stagnating, and you're not growing yourself, and it is decline, because, we've all seen people that sit there and bust their ass and do all of these things. I just talked about this the other day. I don't remember who I was talking to. I wish I could, but I was just talking to somebody about this the other day, and I was saying, it's the Tom Brady effect, right? Last guy drafted in the NFL draft, and he sits there and I'm a Tampa Bay guy, right? So like, I hated him his whole career, and then he moved here, and I was like, he's the best.
Yeah. That's fair.
And then I got to listen to him. I didn't ever listen to what he said. I just hated the Patriots because they're a Boston team, and
That's
I'm in
right.
Tampa,
Yeah.
Florida, and we hate Boston teams down here. So when I started listening to him talk, and he was talking about how he got to where he was, and he was like, I went to practice and I got 3 snaps. I made him the best 3 snaps I could make him. Then I got 6. Then I earned 9. Then I earned 12. And then whatever it is, and you go from there. And he said he did the same thing in the pros, and he was ready, right? So like, being prepared and having advanced warning are two different things, right? So you think about are you prepared, right? Drew Bledsoe goes down, Tom Brady steps in. Now we know what his storied career is. Very different than saying, hey, you're going to start tomorrow, because you may not do shit to get there, right? I told you, I went to boot camp on 9 days' notice. I didn't do anything to prepare myself. I went to drill instructor school. I didn't do anything to prepare myself. I figured I was going to ride it out, right?
Yep.
And those are the things that you can get by for a little while, and then you have very gifted people, right? Physically gifted, mentally gifted, whatever it is, and not to throw hate or shade at anybody, but there's a gentleman named Jamarcus Russell who first round, first pick, gangster, right?
Yeah.
Basically, like,
Yeah.
dude, and didn't do shit, didn't work hard, or at least the folks, allegedly, didn't put in a lot of work, right? And then you got somebody who I can beat in a 40. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Who's the greatest of all time in that particular position. And even, I think, more importantly than whatever his stats are, is that his ability to lead the people around him. Mm-hmm. And I just shared on LinkedIn, I just had this thought a couple of weeks ago, was like, when he built the team here in Tampa, talent recognizes talent.
Yeah.
And people came here to be around him. There are people that are still in that organization because he was here. I look at like a Levante David or a Mike Evans. Like, that's the reason that they're still here, was because he showed up. Right. And he changed the scope of the organization into a winning franchise.
True.
And it just is what it is. And absolutely. And that is the definition of legacy.
There it is.
You know what I mean? He's planted trees that he is not sitting under the shade of, and in that particular franchise. And I think that if you ask me what I think that we're here to do, I think that's exactly what it is, right? Is that whatever it is that you have your influence, whether it be a point, they're over there, my children, or, you know what I mean, your family, the people that you come across every day, like that's what it comes down to, is being a good steward of what you have, and giving more than you receive.
Yeah. Speaking of which, like, talk about unselfishness being a leadership trait. Like, the dude took pay cuts to build the team around him on many occasions. And I couldn't agree more. I have it tatted right here on my arm right here. In Courier New, 12-point font, just saying. But keeping it old school. But no, it's what Jim Carrey said. The effect you have on others is the most valuable currency there is.
Yep.
Like, Denzel said it. You'll never see a hearse or a U-Haul following a hearse. Like, you can't take any of these things with you. Many people have tried that before, but in the end, you're gone. And what is the effect you had on those around you? And that really is your legacy. Not, statues and monuments. And no, it's I think Pericles said it's engraved in the lives of those that you had an impact on. Essentially, I'm paraphrasing, but I'm with you on that 100%. And I think, I don't think that we all fully realize all of the time that whether you're taking a negative side, or you're frowning, or you're rolling your eyes, you are still claiming a position, still making a effect on somebody else, and somebody's watching you. And I tie it into this, just the subjects that you were so courageous to share with us, of losing your father to death by suicide at a point when you may have not seen it coming. Afterwards, we can all be the Monday morning quarterback and we can see all these things, but in the moment it was like, oh wow, right? But those subjects, so many people will roll their eyes at, or they'll say it's a generational thing, or they'll say they'll just scoff at it. Now, I ask all of you that are out there trying to make an impact, are you part of the problem, or are you part of the solution? Because when you roll your eyes, when you scoff at it, when you, have a certain stigma or judgment on someone, or stereotype someone, you just described this, God rest his soul, a 79-year-old man. Don't tell me it's a generational issue if that occurred, and one is too many. So this thing doesn't discriminate, and I hate to go so hard at it right there, but I don't think people understand how much of an impact and an effect you are having on some of these so vulnerable subjects. When you claim you have no position, that doesn't mean you need to be opposed or totally negative too, but even when you scoff at, or even when you say somebody's soft, or when you say these negative, ignorant things because you don't have the information, somebody else is following that and going, yeah, my uncle said, or hey, the corporal said, or this person or that person said. So I say to everyone out there, be careful when it comes to all of these subjects, and how you treat them, and how you show and display your interest or your lack of interest in them. Because whether you're Brady, or whether you're Karl or me or anyone else out there, if you're impacting a situation or people, you are by definition a leader. So that's a recruit on fire watch all the way up to Tom Brady, to the Commandant of the Marine Corps, et cetera, et cetera. You are making an impact. So what kind of effect are you having?
So there's an interesting corollary to that, right? So this is something that obviously I'm by no means a professional when it comes to mental health or anything like that, other than to try to decipher my own bullshit.
Yeah, same. I mean, that's the truth.
But I think the thing that, stands out to me as I go back and, especially look at my dad, was that it's crazy as a son to kind of go through this, because I think it doesn't matter how your parent passes, right? And the sad, if I can do a spoiler alert here, it's going to happen to all of us at some point by some means, right? And that's not an advocacy for taking your own life. That is certainly not. I can become uncomposed very quickly as a result of that, right? So like, what I have started to figure out, and I think it ties into like when you have an opportunity, right? You have an audience or a venue to respond or to engage with somebody else. The thing that is the variable that I cannot escape as I go back and look at, my dad for sure, but others as well that I know, is that the common thread through all of this is isolation.
Yeah.
And when we have these conversations, right, if I say something to you that's negative, I built a wall, right? Even as you and I sit here right now, I know that I'm assuming that what I'm looking at is what you see, is that I'm keeping my hands open. I'm not even physically barriering myself, as I'm having this conversation, right? And so it doesn't matter what like you said, even an eye roll or a nothing. A nothing is powerful sometimes, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's a gentleman named Kevin Hines. I don't know if you're familiar with him or not.
Yes, sir.
This dude, crazy like story, right? And he talks about he took a bus to go to the Golden Gate Bridge to kill himself, right? And he said he's like weeping like a baby the whole way, the grown ass man, and he's just like waiting for somebody to, brother, are you okay?
Yeah.
And nobody said shit. And somebody actually next to him started talking smack about him. And everything that he was sitting there telling himself, right? The story, I'm going to steal a Brene Brown. I think it's Brene Brown that said it, like the lie that I'm telling myself, or the story that I'm telling myself right now, is this is reaffirming the fact that nobody cares.
Mm-hmm.
I'm physically, right? Like I am showing you that I am in crisis, and this is what happens. And he's like, I walked down the bridge, and he said finally somebody stopped him, some woman stopped him, and he was like, yes, thank goodness I don't have to do this, right? And she hands him a freaking camera and says, will you take a picture of me on the bridge? Wow. And he took a picture of her, and then he leapt off the bridge, and he says as soon as his hands left the railing, he was like, this was a terrible idea. And so there's more to the story. I'm not going to tell, steal a man's story, but like there's a lot more to it. But again, it's just one of those things where it's like he was walking past people. It wasn't like people, like one person was nasty to him. Everybody else was indifferent. And what that allows you to do is reinforce that story in your own mind, that like what I am telling myself is in fact true, because all of this other evidence is now supporting it. Mm-hmm. And it's, man, I mean, there's so many things that, and I'm not saying that you can go out there and save everybody. And I don't know that that's, an appropriate standard to set for sure. But like the folks that are in your circle,
that's right.
You need to be intentional.
That's it.
When that phone rings and you're like, meh, I'll call him back. Mm-hmm. Maybe, maybe not. And that's a real, that's a reality. And so there's so many things that we chatted a minute and then we agreed to have the conversation live here, is that, when we're talking about, isolating factors in the world that we live in, they're everywhere.
Everywhere.
The fact that you and I can legitimately like sit here and have this conversation, I can see you, you can see me. I think you're hundreds of miles away from me.
Yeah, same. Yeah.
And so, you know what I mean? Like, this is a reality. But there's still a sense of isolation here. And that is a, I don't even know what it is. That is a fight that I think needs more exposure on some end. And that what happens is you allow these people to sort of segment off and become, they just become citizens of an echo chamber, and they hear what they want to hear.
That's powerful.
These goddamn algorithms are built intentionally to feed you more shit. It's like the fucking human centipede of information. That's a graphic. There's a graphic one. That's the real introduction to me, is the way I talk.
I love it. I love it.
But I mean,
it's real. Bro.
These are the types of things that just and just feed you this thing. And if that is negative shit,
that's what
you're going to get more of it.
That's right. That's right.
If it's self-harm, isolation, stealing somebody else, I don't know who it is, but I'm stealing a lot of people's shit. But like, these what are referred to as like diseases of despair, right? Alcoholism, drug abuse, even like becoming, dude, like I remember when people were like freaking out about gambling. You can gamble on your phone right now.
Right now.
You have access to pornography on your phone straight away.
Boom.
Like there's a dopamine hit that has an immediate, like I can touch it in 3 seconds, right?
That's right.
And it is so gosh darn dangerous. And those are the types of things that I think there's a lack of accountability, I think, systemically. But man, like it's like eating healthy. You gotta like work harder to eat well. You know what I'm saying? Like
more a lot of times.
It's difficult. Absolutely.
Cheap. You can go get a big chicken for like 99 cents, right? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, dude. So funny story, right? And I know you gave me quite an introduction and said some really nice things about me, and I appreciate it. There was a period of time, a couple of years ago, that I don't know how or why you came across my mind, and I'm like, man, I haven't seen this guy in forever. I'm certain he is doing something amazing.
Thanks, man.
And so I looked you up on Facebook. This is probably 3 to 5 years ago, probably. Couldn't find you. I think I looked you up on even LinkedIn, which is like basically my go-to at this point, which has its own, believe me, it's got its own trash cans all over it.
Get weird up there sometimes. That's for sure.
Yeah, it is what it is. But whatever, it is what it is. And so, and I couldn't find you forever. And then for whatever reason, I gave it another shot at some point later on in the future and came across you. And so I've always had an amazing amount of admiration for you and what you bring as a leader. I remember a brief that you gave one time regarding drugs and alcohol, and I was just like, I've never seen one. I knew you were like I don't say junior guy, but you were a young staff sergeant, and you had full command of the room. And I was like, that is not your average bear right there. And so, yeah, man, full circle to come back and be able to talk to you and I feel reintroduced to you, man, is massive. And so I'm not really sure how I went off on that tangent, but to see what you're doing now and seeing how, it's relating to, I would say the circumstances of my life, but that's cheapening it. It's the circumstances of almost everybody's life. And if it's not, it's like the motorcycle thing, right? Those that have fallen and those that will. So it is going to be the circumstances of probably everybody's life. But all of that to say is like, there's a lot of stuff out there to keep you complacent, to keep you freaking distracted, to keep you isolated. I mentioned Scott Galloway earlier when you and I were talking prior to getting on here, but his whole mantra of like being a man and getting out and, if it takes having a drink or two and making a series of bad decisions that lead to living a life, go for it. I definitely have done my fair share of that. Some of it worked out well. Some of it worked out very poorly. But you know what? At the end of the day, we're here.
Yeah, man. Still here.
Still here.
Even if you don't want to be, right? And I'm grateful for you saying what you said about me, man, and I've always admired you and looked up to you, and since I'll say it offline, but me coming to where we met was not under the best of circumstances, and I felt very you go from hero to zero real quick, let's put it like that. And a special thing in life when and not many organizations can do it, but some You can go from sugar to shit real quick. Let's put it like that.
And that's an absolute truth.
And I've been there many a times, and to the point of just gratitude, man. I'm grateful to still know you and call you friend and just see where you're at as well. But, and I say this often, the only thing better than good people is more good people, because like it or not, we're all we got, and that's the God's honest truth. And I'm so happy that you touched on the point of how right now, like, there's more than one way to burn the books. Like, you could either burn all the books, or I can throw so many books at you, you can't even read the right one. And if you do, it's going to take you a while, and have fun sorting that and citing that and all that, et cetera things. But why you couldn't find me 5 years ago is because I never, ever even had social media until I started doing outreach and I started doing comedy. And it was like overseas, the only way, if you're in Japan or any of the foreign deployed areas, because cell phone bills are so expensive and et cetera, like, and there's, less equipment, and, Marines won't even do their DTS claims. They won't even get in. So how?
I remember that.
How are they going to even see the email that you sent to all hands, right? And if they do, they're not even looking at that. And half of us, we're not concise enough to reach that younger generation. So I was like, the first step in really wanting to help people is meet them where they're at. So I was like, I guess I got to make a Facebook, and I got to make so I just talked to my kids, actually, that are older now. One's actually a Marine right now on active duty, but I would get insight from her and be like, so what's the thing now? Is it this or is it that? Like, I'm like, Facebox, what? I'm a graham cracker because I'm a cracker and I'm on the gram. Like, what am I? You know what I mean? And I can say that because I'm a cracker. So, but in all sincerity, that's how I started doing it, because I was trying to meet the people where they were at. Because one of the words that you said, I think we have a lot of great people with great intentions when it comes to the reduction of death by suicide, of so many of the problems and plights of our society. They have great intentions and they put in great effort. But the thing that you said was impact and effective, right? And I was trying to be the most impactful and effective. So this whole thing just started by, this show was like, I would hold these little huddles, and it was like voluntary basis, and I'd say some pretty good shit, but like, people are busy, people don't show up, and I'm like, on demand land, meet them where they're at. I'll start a podcast. I DJ. I was learning that, so just, it's funny. And I bring that up not to say, guess what I did, but that's why you couldn't find me. I never had it. And then it became a necessary weapon. But I never want anyone to think that, technology is just all bad. And I know that's not what you're saying, because this is how we maintain our lifestyles, right? However, I want everyone to understand, and please understand this, that no time in ever of human history have we had so many things prying for our attention, our capital of attention, and our dopamine releases. And that is addicting. And you know what? An addict today is not just the wino or the drunk or the druggie or the junkie. Dude, like, all of us are somehow, if you're not careful. So to me, it's like a car or a weapon, right? A weapon can defend freedom. You can actually use it you can go to ranges and you can have fun with marksmanship and things like that, but can also be used to shoot up a school, right? And a car can be used to take you places, to drive you places, to go places, to get to and from work, or you could drive it through, down in New Orleans like we saw last year. So it's all of how you use it. But here's the thing about technology, and I agree with you so much. So many of us are not using it, but we're being used by it. And that's where we got to catch ourselves. Check yourself before you wreck yourself.
Yeah, it's like I say to people in my professional world sometimes that, are you a driver or are you a passenger?
Ooh, that's deep.
There was a dude, you probably know him too. He used to say, are you predator or are you prey?
Yeah.
Do you know who I'm talking about?
I mean, I could wonder about it, but I don't know.
Sergeant Major Corville used to say that all the time.
Oh, okay.
Are you predator or are you prey?
Are you talking about Jan Paul?
Yep. Yeah, you know who I'm. Yeah.
I love how you introduced himself, Jan Paul. I was like, well, Jan Paul, right? That's tight.
There we go. There we go. But yeah, no, I mean, that's a real thing, right? Like, are you driving or are you a passenger? And, and I think that's like what we talked about before, right? Like, the coasting part of it is that, the lack of ambition is a pathway to apathy, right? And it becomes a very dangerous place to go to. And that is what happens if you allow yourself to become isolated, right? My brother, this is a weird kind of an aside, but my brother a couple of years ago, when everybody had it, had COVID, and he got it pretty bad. and he was in the hospital for, I remember it was through Christmas, so it was probably 3 years ago, and whatever year it was, 4 years ago, I don't know, whenever COVID was a thing, right? Um, and I would talk to him and I would text him or whatever, stay in touch with him, right, daily. And he was in an ICU, and of course it's like COVID, so everybody's like freaking out, and they're all walking around like there's a daggone nuclear explosion that went off. And he and I spoke either while he was there or right after he got out. And the funny thing is that he worked at the damn hospital that he was at as a patient. And he said, man, the thing that fucked with me more than anything, it was worse than the illness, it was worse than everything else. He would say it was the isolation. It was being alone. Yeah. And you think like there's times, because your life can be, whatever. I'm like, I think you did the same thing I did, right? So you started over, you got older kids and you got some young ones too.
Oh, that's called a COVID baby. Yeah. Thanks, COVID. Yeah.
No, I mean, mine was a little bit more intentional. I have a COVID baby too, but I got a 5 and a 4-year-old and a 23-year-old.
There it is. Yeah.
So, whatever. It's like, I tell people all the time, I'm like, it's like running a marathon, and then you go through the tape at the end and they're like, no, this is the halfway point. Turn around, go back. And I'm like, fuck. So I keep it running.
It's true.
Yeah. I didn't have all this gray before, right? The first time through. So, but I'm more equipped now, and I know that the person that pays the price for that is my daughter, if I'm being honest, right? So it's, it just is whatever. I could only do what I could do then, but anyway, it's that going back to that isolation point. I told you there's a reason I took notes, brother, because I'll freaking go all over the damn place.
I'm with you. I put the high definition of ADHD,
brother. That isolation, man, can get you to a point to where there is no ambition.
None.
And you become a self-fulfilling prophecy, whatever that is, right? And the opposite is true as well, right? It's a thing. Like if you want to see the best in the good in people, you will. If you want to see the worst in somebody, you will.
Yes.
And it's the same thing. And it's like, but it's in a mirror, right? If you want to see the best in yourself, you will. If you want to see the worst in yourself, you will. And it just depends on what are you going to focus on?
Yeah. Yeah. You know what? I referenced this week because I'm doing some training for internship and stuff
during my transition,
and one of the things I brought up, is there's a lot of words that get a bad rap. 1 is discipline, 2 is confrontation, and I'll say 3 is the expression of brainwashing. And brother Twig, Twig, he totally reframed the way I look at that term. He's like, yes, I am brainwashing. I am cleaning my brain of shit, right? And why I brought up the social media that I started is I'm not lying to you, and I'm not trying to say I'm squeaky clean and perfect, but I only look at funny shit and things of this nature that's in here, right? So my everything that comes to me is either some products I probably shouldn't buy, or, it's comedy, it's just goofy shit, and then it's like inspirational shit. And the more I like that, the more, but there have been times where I've liked something else, and then I'll see more of that flow in, and I'm like, whoa, that's not what I'm here for, right? And I'm not saying that people look. Freedom is, it's a double-edged sword. Sometimes we can lead ourselves to our own thing, but when you become isolated in your own echo chamber of people that only think like you need to step outside of that. And I'm saying that to anyone who may be listening. You, like what you did, you sought discomfort in wanting to go to the gym to lift because running just came naturally. I remember those days I used to be able to drink a fifth and the next day come out and run a 275, 285 PFT and be fine. Those days are over. They're gone, right? It takes a concerted effort, and life will humble you because that's just the way life is. But to embrace discomfort, not in a masochist kind of way, but in the way to grow, that can also be tuned into and flowed over to the subject of how you partake and how you interact with social media and things like that. Like try to grow outside so that way, because listen, the algorithm, the companies, the ads, all of that is not going to do it for you. It's all about money. It's all about clicks. And I'm going to tell you, I say it again, I don't care if you're the most introverted among us. Read Sebastian Junger's book called Tribe. It's very small, right? People need people. And he defines so many examples of it, but you need other people. So MGC, if you're feeling down, if you're feeling out, I would tell you move your ass, express some gratitude because we all got something to be thankful for, but most importantly, connect. And in our world today, there are more than one way to connect. Like right now, even though we're not in each other's physical presence, I'm getting fuel from this because I can see you.
Yeah,
I hear the rhythm, the cadence, the rise, the inflection of your voice. But man, the one thing, I'm going to kill that point right quick. When you said lack of ambition is a pathway to apathy, bro, I might get that neck tatted. Like
that may not be mine. I may have stolen
it doesn't
that.
matter. There's
Everything is
there's nothing original.
In the disclosure in the beginning of this, we should have said Karl may plagiarize every part of this gosh darn conversation.
No, hey, it doesn't even matter because there's really nothing. I mean, I believe there's nothing new under the sun. Nothing. We just know more about new shit. But there's also, I had a friend of mine on the show about 2 weeks ago, Kevin Gartland. Man, what an amazing story. If anybody wants to hear a story of resilience and coming back. But this guy, he said, like, I said the same thing you said. I said, well, I'm probably stealing that or whatever. And he was like, there's nothing fucking original. We're all stealing shit. He's from the Bronx. But anyway.
The bald dude? I saw that, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had two bald dudes that are both comedians and are both named Kevin 2 days in a row. Tell me I didn't fuck up that file a few times when I was sorting it. I'm going to just say that.
It's creating challenges.
Two
right?
bald-headed Kevins that are both comedians 2 days in a row on the show, which I'm grateful for. I'm not saying I'm not, but I was just like, hold up. If I mess this up, it's going to be a whole nother introduction.
Yeah, dude, that's funny. With one thing I was going to add to that part when you're talking about like, kind of getting through stuff and recognizing that, it is what it is. I chased, like I said, I mean, and I still do. I got to talk myself off the ledge pretty regularly because I have a complex where I feel like I need to be flawless with all sorts of things, all dumb stuff. Bro, I remember cause I told you, like, I was a decent runner. When I say decent, like not great for sure. I wasn't maxing a PFT or anything, but I was doing okay. And then I had a friend of mine who was like, we should run a half marathon. I'm like, fuck this. Like, I don't want to. But I knew a guy, this dude, Eric, was like, he's a Marine, sponsored by Wheaties. This dude, you could run a marathon in like 6 minutes, right? And so I was like, hey, can you send me a protocol, right?
Yeah, like a little plan or whatever.
Yeah, so I can get myself together. And so he started mixing in like short run, like 440s, right? And so I just incorporated it into my normal routine. So even like years after I ran that dumbass half marathon one, I kept doing that because I knew like you can go and run 3 miles. And if you continue to just run 3 miles, you're going to get really good at running 3 miles at whatever pace.
And plateau eventually, probably.
The only way that you're going to get faster is by gosh darn running faster. And so he was like, dude, mark these 440s, run them at consistent time, whatever the time was, right? And so I think I was running at like a minute 5 or a minute 10, whatever, it doesn't matter. And I was feeling pretty good about myself. And I would do like, you run them, you wait a minute, you run another one. And I would do that times 16, right? Which was the sort of running workout that I was doing. And I was feeling good about myself. And I'm like, yeah, I'm down close to a minute, whatever. And what do, man? I go and I freaking Google, what is the world record 440 time? And you talk about like going from, feeling good about yourself to feeling like a piece of shit. And I'm just like, where are there like 30 seconds or whatever? Well, I don't remember what it was, but like 25 seconds. Like, where is that?
There's some double digits missing on this.
Bro, like, you know what I mean? And you're just like, what the hell? I remember I bought in on that CrossFit phase for a bit too, right? And I would do something, I'd feel good about it. And then I'd be like, what does Rich Froning do this in? And it's just like,
yeah.
Like, bro, are you freaking kidding me? Like, there's no way, you know what I mean? And so like, and I know that like the comparisons with Tiva Joy, freaking whatever, overused cliche. But in all of that, right, it is about striving to get better and working that muscle. And even if it's something physical, whatever it is, what it is, I am a very novice jiu-jitsu person who's been a very novice jiu-jitsu person for a long time. I'm good in some areas and I get completely ragdolled in others. I'm a like white belt of white belts forever and ever. But going out there's days where I'm like, I don't feel like it.
Yeah.
And I've got somebody in this house with me who is really, really good for me. And she'll be like, all right, so your water bottle's ready. Like, go get your crap on and get the hell out of this house. And so,
That's
you know,
what
it
you
just
need,
is,
man. That's beautiful.
bro, but you need it, right? Like sometimes you need that kick in the ass from, you know, your support network. And the other thing is, then I look at my kids too, right? They need to see that.
They do. They do.
And bro, I'm telling you, like there's days where, and especially like jujitsu, because that's some humbling stuff. You go out there and you get diced up by a 17-year-old and you're just like, what the fuck just happened, right? But it's like looking at it and saying like, you know, failure is what you make of it, right? It is, it's like the, you know, vehicle to push you to success, or it becomes the carriage to self-doubt. And then you can sit there and be like, yeah, that didn't work out well. I'm not doing it anymore. And I'm done. And it doesn't matter what it, like, I don't care what it is. Anything. I'm not doing this anymore. This sucks. I don't like it, whatever. And, you know, one of those things that I had to tell myself, and I see my kids do it too, is like, you're not going to be great at something the first time you do it. And if you are,
be careful.
better go find something else to damn do.
You feel to get humbled.
Yeah. Like, you know, and that's the thing is like everything is a learning experience, right? And you're going to fail at everything. And I this is probably like an Adam Grant ripoff, but he basically says, you just got to you're going to be willing to take more attempts than other people are willing to fail, right? To be successful, something like that. And it's like the Grant Cardone, like 10X rule, right? If I say, hey, Cam, I'm going to challenge you to a push-up contest and whoever can do 100 wins or whatever. If I train to do 1,000, I'm for sure doing 100.
That's right.
And so it's just like how much energy you're going to put into this. And as I say all of these things and sort of sound like I have my shit together because I've thought about some of these things before we started talking. Like obviously we have this venue here where we can discuss these things. Bro, every single day I'm like, I don't want to do this. I'd rather lay in bed. I'd rather do this. I don't want to do that. To sit here and pretend like I have my shit figured out is a damn lie. Like that is not a fact. You know, again, it's the outside effect, right? It's a shirt. It is whatever. It's what's underneath it. There's still struggles. It exists every day. There are days where I'm, you know, my dad's urn is like right up above on the shelf over there. And so I can look up at him every day. And some days I look up and I'm just like, you know, glad you're here with me.
Yeah.
There's other days I look up there, man, and it's like it happened fucking 2 minutes ago.
That's right.
And it just is what it is, right? And so, yeah, I mean, I don't want to put off like, oh, this guy's got it all figured out. That is the furthest thing from the truth. But I've subscribed to Jim Mattis, the Honorable. I don't know what his appropriate title is now. General.
You're like the only one. I do that all the time. I'm like the Honorable Mr. Mattis. People like that's General Mattis. I'm like actually the most senior role.
He got promoted.
That's right.
Yeah.
Honorable Mr. Mattis. Get that shit right.
But his thing about like if you haven't read hundreds of books, you're functionally illiterate because there's no time in one person's life to be prepared for everything that's going to get thrown at you, and that's why I've become, I would say, a voracious reader. But it's a lie because I listen to them all. But I do keep notes on my note section on my iPhone, and I go back and reread them, or I will organize. I've used ChatGPT to organize them for me, which is incredibly helpful.
But you're using it; it's not using you. That's
correct.
a tool. That's a tool.
That is correct. Yeah, ChatGPT is not my best friend. It is it is a tool that I utilize from time to time.
Pick me up right now, G. Thank you though.
And I still feel guilty using it for whatever reason, but yeah, no, I mean, it's just about getting out there and exposing yourself to the information. And again, I will just say that is, you know, getting to a point to where you know what your discomfort feels like, and you can be okay there. There's this thing, not to plug another podcast on the podcast.
No, please.
I feel like everybody in this orbit, or likely many people in this orbit, probably realize that there's a guy named Jocko Willink that exists in the world. And I'm going to go to his leadership muster on Sunday.
Really?
So next week I'll be doing that, which is really cool. Oh. And so before you go, when you sign up for that thing, they ask you like, what do you want to get out of this? And so I could sit here and be like, man, I got this shit figured out. Like I feel like I've got my leadership stuff down. My LinkedIn posts are freaking legit. I sound like I know what I'm talking about. I'm here to give to the rest of y'all.
Yeah. I was actually gonna see what I could teach you, Jocko.
Yeah, I'm trying to show somebody else something. I mean, there may be something. I don't know what it is. It's certainly not in jiu-jitsu, but I'm sure there's something. But the thing is, like, what I wrote down, my response to that answer is, what do you want to get out of this? And what I wrote down was to find something that I didn't know about myself out. Right? Where's my shortcoming? What's my blind spot? What's my bias that I'm unaware of? And where do I need to grow? Right? What are the things about me that I need to prioritize growth in? And in my home, I know what those are. Professionally, it can become camouflage sometimes, right? Especially if people telling you doing a good job a lot. You can start to believe that shit.
Yeah, it's true. You do.
And maybe you are, and that's good, but that doesn't mean, again, that does not mean that you have arrived. That means that you're on the right path. Yes. And so, it's that sort of mindset through whatever it's been, and then figuring it out, and it's like people talk about children and how, to see the world through a child's eyes, right? And because there's so much that you don't know.
Yeah.
And I look at thinking about my own story a little bit is like the things I don't know is that there was a part of my childhood that there was some serious financial trouble going on. And like car got repossessed. I thought it was getting stolen. Like I'm getting ready to go to school one morning and some dudes jump in the car and drive away. And I'm like, the fuck?
Yeah.
I was sitting in a house with no electricity, no water one time, or it's not a house, a freaking ghetto ass apartment. And I heard a knock on the door and I knew it was somebody from the realty place. And so I hid under a window, so that if they looked in the window, I was like right there. They wouldn't be able to see me in the house, right? And so I hid under the window while they taped the freaking eviction notice to the door. And I listened to that lady talk shit about my mom and me, and to a neighbor who had helped us out. And that lady started talking shit. And I was like, there's no fucking loyalty in this world, right?
None.
And at 9 years old, man, that's some reality coming. I'm not saying it's the hardest life, but it definitely wasn't ideal. But the crazy part about it is in the moment, I didn't think we were poor.
That's right.
I wore the same fucking clothes every goddamn day. Literally every day. I was a little dirt bird, kid. And I used to wear I remember them to this day, some gangster ass freaking teal jams. I don't know if you remember what jams are. This is like mid-80s. And a black tank top, bro. That was my shit. I felt like Sonny Crockett on goddamn Miami Vice. And I was like, I'm rolling this every day. And I didn't think about I didn't know there was anything wrong with that. And now as a parent, I'm like, there's no fucking way my kid's wearing the same clothes every day or what, you know what I mean? Like and I'm not shitting on my mom for that. I'm just saying it is what it is. But, we're all in our circumstance and we do what we do. We do what we can do. And so like to look at the world through the eyes of a child, right, is to say like, I don't recognize sometimes the despair in my own life because I'm just here doing my thing.
Yeah.
And that seems like a very liberating place to be. Sometimes, right? When there's not like physical or sexual trauma, right? But like those sorts of things where you're safe, for all intents and purposes, but things may not be ideal, but you don't know because you don't have the history, you don't have the experience, right?
Yeah, that familiarity is comfortable.
Yeah. Yep.
And we're comfort-seeking creatures.
Sure.
And to the point of abuse of all kinds of sorts, people go back to that as well, unfortunately, because it's what you know, and we don't know what we don't know. But I think what the through line to me with so many of the things that you've said and what I really respect is that willingness to learn, the willingness to fail. And you said you don't have it all figured out, but you are still willing to try to figure it out or the next thing out. And there's growth in that. And there's science now that backs this stuff up. Dr. Andrew Huberman on his podcast, he had David Goggins on.
What's that part of the brain called that he was talking about?
I think it's the mid-cingulate frontal cortex, something like that. you guys can Google it. It'll be like, did you mean? Don't go off a cam. I'm not a doctor. No, I'm a doctor. But there's a part in the brain that shows kind of like the will to live and the will to grow. And actually, you grow more at the times. The days that you go to the gym, you mentally and your body holistically grows more on the days that you don't want to go.
Yeah.
Than the day, say it's a chest day, a Monday, or whatever the hell is. That Monday you wanted to go, you don't grow as much as you did on the Monday you didn't want to go. So again, folks, not to be a masochist, but to face these things and to grow outside of our comfort zones and to do, and even though, like you said, oh, you're all about this, or you do this and you do that and you do this and you do that. Like we have so many, I want everybody to remember this word, cognitive distortions going on in all of our brains all of the time. And if you're an intelligent person, you probably got more than the average because you overthink things and you label things. And I mean, it's enlightening to learn and to reflect. But then you also, by human nature, go, guys got some cognitive distortions. You know what I'm saying? But you're raised in them and you're raised around them in that all or nothingness or I'm not good enough. And I think comparison is good in the sense of when you can be inspired, right? Or not the sense that I'm not running 45-second 440, so I suck. No, but I'm having something to strive towards. But I do think some of us give ourselves a little too much credit now. We take our foot off the gas when we compare and go, well, I'm not as bad as whomever. Now, that's where the lack of ambition, because you take your foot off the gas, is the pathway to apathy. And then you stagnate. And
first step of success is to stop working, right?
That's it.
And that's why I was telling somebody, one of my friends, he was like, I want to run a 5K or whatever. And I'm like, why? He's like, I need to get my fat ass in shape or whatever, right? So I'm like, all right. And so I'm like, I could probably tell you how to run a 5K, right? Or get you ready. I could do the same thing that my buddy Eric did for me. I could do for somebody else now, probably, right? But then what happens the day after that 5K?
Then what? Yes.
And I tell people all the time, like I make this reference of, and I know I stole this too, is standards over goals. There is a natural, and you think about it with everything, right? Like you run a race, you go through the ribbon. What's the first thing that happens? Your pace dumps, you throw your hands up. Hey, I'm good to go. You think about like a professional fighter, right? They sitting there, these guys are beating the shit out of each other or whomever. These people are beating the shit out of each other for however many minutes, 25, 35 minutes. And they put all this energy into this thing. And then as soon as you get your hand raised, some people collapse on the floor. They're done.
Yeah, they literally did.
You think are they in the gym the next day? Very few are. Very few are. And I'm not knocking those folks as well. I don't want to get my ass whipped. But but there's that aspect of it too. And
Come
and
here,
so
novice, you talking shit.
Yeah, no. I am a good novice. I'm a black belt novice. But I think it's that, right? Like we tell ourselves like, oh, this is something, we're good to go. We don't have to do this thing anymore. There's a flip side of that coin, which I suffer with. And that is nothing is fucking ever good enough.
That's right.
And I have paralyzed myself in some regards to the pursuit of perfection, like I had mentioned earlier, where this isn't good enough. And everything in my physiology is telling me, you're redlining right now.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, I could take a break and be a bitch.
That's right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and then you're like, no, I'm not doing this. And there is an internal dialogue or monologue, I guess, dialogue that goes on that I always thought like having like a really unhealthy internal dialogue was like a good motivator. Mm-hmm. Dude, you are eating fucking poison.
Yes. Yeah,
and
it is.
And I have to, somebody, a professional, just told me, and I wrote it down, and now, of course, I moved it, so I don't know where it is. The 3 C's. The 3 C's are catch it, check it, and change it. So when you catch those behaviors, you catch those thoughts or those things that you're saying to yourself, you check it, you apply reality to it. This is bullshit. And then you change your behavior. Mm-hmm. And it is a function of, present cognition, right? Like you are there. And you have to be in those moments. And so, again, man, I say all of these things to you and I just have to throw the disclaimer, like, there's a good chance that I'm going to wake up tomorrow morning at whatever time and be like, I should go to the gym. and be like, yeah, this bed is really fucking comfortable too.
There's,
You know
I
what
mean,
mean?
there's those days like that because you're human and you have to be able to give yourself grace. What wouldn't be good is where I felt myself in is when I don't do it, then I'm like, you fucking piece of shit, and then you
Yep.
start.
That's exactly,
But
yep.
at the same time, though, I think there's a certain time and place for that, and I think you use the word bitch the same way I use it, and it's what we were raised with and growing up and how we grew up with. Don't be a little bitch. Now, I like how Anthony Kiedis said it. He said, when I say bitch, I don't mean reference to a woman or to an
No.
animal. I mean it in reference to a selfish, weak, self-centered, just weak thing, right?
Yep.
And that's how we're defining bitch.
Just
for anybody.
craving comfort.
You just
Yeah.
you're like the oh my precious, you little bitch. You know what I mean? And that's what it is because you're seeking comfort, and that's natural for humans, or else we wouldn't have we're both indoors, we're both having shelter. It can lead to some good things, but can also
For sure.
lead to that lack of ambition is a pathway to apathy. And I had a Marine, and I just quoted him. Selfish plug. New book is out. Boom. Thank you,
Yes.
Warriors. Right. There'll be a second edition. I'm definitely putting you in it. I'm gonna tell you that right now. You don't give me some fuel over here. And I'll say, maybe he's paraphrasing here, somebody else, but this is where I heard it from. Okay. But in there, I have this quote from this young Marine that I was teaching something. And I was talking about, Bruce Lee said, running water never grows stale, right? So you got to keep on flowing. And then he just went, yeah, because stagnation leads to degradation. And I was like, whoa. Yep. I mean, and this was me in the position of leader, teacher, facilitator, and this young corporal. Shout out to you, brother. You know who you are. I got you quoted in the book. But says stagnation leads to degradation. And I think so often because our world is so comfortable, but also challenging in whole nother ways. You have to have those things, like from what I've heard from you, reading, learning, having good support systems around you, having your own bride telling you, hey, you gonna go? You don't fill up the water bottle. You got your shoes right over there, player. They ain't gonna jump on your feet now.
That's the nicest one that she does. She does things where if I become a bit of a cranky pants, she'll be like, why don't you take your ass to the gym and burn some of that.
Yeah, mine says the same
right out of
thing.
you.
She's like, why don't you go downstairs and do some art? And I'm like, okay, fine, then I will. I'm going to go to the lab because I'm a math scientist. But yeah, no, it's you need those people around you. But again, what I see in there, you seeking jiu-jitsu, like what does a man with gray have to do with going to seek jiu-jitsu? Well, you are still sharpening your axe. You know what I mean? And if not, you will perish. If you don't use it, you will lose it. And I think the body in motion stays in motion, but I also think the mind as well. So I think what you've just, and I usually ask people, like, what are some ways that you maintain resilience? And I'm like, dude, like the humility to grow, the humility to reflect. And I'm so grateful because as you said that, you pointed off to the direction. I'm looking at the capsule that I have my brother's ashes in. And when we talk about the subject of grief, it never goes away, and it can go years, and then you just feel like it just all.
I got a good one. I got a good one for you on that. This is a ripoff too. This was told to me when my dad first passed, and I'm gonna talk a little bit about this, right?
Yeah, please do.
So when my dad passed, she'll never hear this, so I don't fucking care. And I don't really care anyway. His wife was not the greatest person ever, and was not kind to my grandparents, to my brothers, to basically anybody, right? And then when we all left, all of that attention got turned to my dad. Again, you're not there all the time. You just kind of, you see it or you hear it or whatever. It's just fucking nasty stuff. And so like, there's that, right? And so I will just tell you that from time to time, if I saw that phone number calling me, there's a very good chance it's going to voicemail. And so I talked to my dad on the Sunday, and we had a very long conversation, which in hindsight, I know now that was probably a goodbye. And I think that like the takeaway from that was that was sort of him closing a chapter and saying like, hey man, I'm proud of you and you got this. You know what I'm saying? Like my role here is over. You're good. You're doing good things. I'm proud of you. Which is important to hear, right? Not with it sort of foreshadowing. And I don't know that it necessarily was. So here's the crazy part. So I think Halloween was on a Wednesday. And so my dad shot himself on Wednesday morning at like 11 a.m. And I go through my day. My young kids go trick or treating. I come home, go to bed. I wake up the next day. I'm doing my thing. My phone rings like 6 o'clock at night. And I'm looking at it. I'm like, what the fuck does she want? I'm like, God damn it. And I knew my dad wasn't feeling well. And I'm like, maybe something's going on with my dad. So let me answer this shit. So I answer the phone. And this is what goes down. She goes, I'm the youngest of three. I have two older brothers. And so I get asked, I need your oldest brother's phone number. And I'm like, what do you mean you need his phone number? She's like, I need to tell him something. And I'm like, he literally took his house phone and turned that number into his cell phone number when cell phones were invented. Like, this dude has had the same phone number since 1995. And I'm like, what do you mean you don't have his phone number? I'm like, what the fuck is going on? And it's like, I just need to talk to him. And I said, is my dad okay? And she said, no. And I said, where is he? She said, he's getting an autopsy.
What the fuck? What?
And then immediately transitioned into, and now, you know, my finances are going to be fucked and his Social Security is going to end and da-da-da-da-da. And it was about her. And that's how she told me that my dad died. And I go, what the fuck happened? And she said, he shot himself. And I said, when? She said, yesterday morning. And I'm like, what the fuck is taking you 36 hours to pick up a goddamn telephone? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I was just like, I can't do this. And I hung up. And there was that. And so, you know, there's a lot that goes into that, right? And so I share that because I think it's unique on some level, and it's obviously not in a good way. But there's a massive amount of grief that comes with that, right?
Yeah.
There's a, you know, there's no closure. You know, you talked about like there's no U-Haul truck that's going to follow you, right? Well, there's like family heirlooms and stuff. They're gone. I mean, until yeah, I'm not going to get into that, but I'm not seeing any of that stuff. You know what I mean? Not anytime in the near future. I don't believe. And so the grief was just really like it was sort of multi-layered, and I'm sure it is for everybody. I just only know my own experience with it, right? And so, you know, I was having a hard time.
Yeah.
Unsurprisingly. And I remember saying when it first went down, I was like, I want to feel this fucking pain every day because I don't want this to become normal, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I felt like I was doing some sort of a disservice to my dad's memory. And so I just wanted to feel the fucking pain.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I had somebody that was talking to me and they said, that doesn't make, you know, whatever you carry with you, the legacy that, you know, we talked about legacies in the very beginning, right? The legacy that of my dad's that I still carry with me, the things that that I took away from him, the good things, the bad things. Dude, there's times I look in the mirror and I see he and I look similar. And now that I'm getting grayer, like there's times where I'm like, oh, there you are. I see you. You're looking right back at me. But what she said was very interesting. And she said that that grief might be one of those like big ass exercise balls, right? Those like yoga balls or whatever the hell they are. Mm-hmm. She said it might be that now. And it's really difficult to like do other things and carry that with you. At some point, it's going to be a marble. Mm-hmm. And you'll be able to put it in your pocket. And it's still going to be there. But it's never going away.
Never, ever.
And it's just and I don't want to say like getting comfortable with it. I told you I spoke to somebody else who's like her name is Alexi Archer, and she has like a survivor's grief, I don't know, thing that she puts on, right? And so I talked to her a couple of weeks ago, and one of the things that she said is she was like, I want to go beyond that and like turn it around so that you see a positive in it. And I'm like, how the fuck? And then as we're talking, I go, well, you know what's interesting is that my brother and I hadn't talked for a few years. And I knew that he wasn't going to answer my phone call, so I had to drive to his house to tell him that our dad was dead. And this dude who I hadn't talked to because we were angry with each other, I knock on his door and he opens the door and he's like, "Hey, what's up, man?" And I'm like, "Really? Like, what the fuck have we been doing?" And so there's like, what's the good? The good is that my brother and I are reconnected. So that's, I guess, a positive, right? But man, there's a lot of pain that comes with it too. And so, for whatever it is, like there's always going to be a trial. There's always going to be a success, right? And there's always going to be a failure. They can happen in the same day. They can happen legitimately at the same time.
Yeah.
And so understanding that is part of life, it just is what it is, man. And it's you talk about the resilience is that, I just made dinner prior to jumping on here with you, and my daughter, who's 4 years old, went shopping with my wife, and they bought hamburger buns that had sesame seeds on them or something. I didn't see them in the cabinet. I just grabbed the regular ones. And so we made cheeseburgers, boom, I put a regular bun on there. And my daughter starts crying because she wanted the poppy seed one or the sesame seed one. Yeah. And I was like, dude, we can fix this, but you don't need to cry.
Right.
And that is, and I legit, like, knowing what I was going to do in an hour, talk to you about this subject, I was like, that is an opportunity to model resilience to my child. And it is benign of an event as that is how I try to recognize those things as they go on, not just with my children, but with myself. And I feel like, whatever it is, leadership, especially in your home or wherever, you gotta be about it. If you're going to say it, you better do it. And that's really what that comes down to. And like I said, man, there's tons of times that great people have failed greatly. And then pick yourself up and keep it moving. But it is not something that you're going to learn the first time. It's going to suck. But over time, and I'm not saying get callous, but over time, you can become a resilient person. And we've all looked back on, bro. So I told you my dad was sick, right?
Yeah.
Thought he was sick. And I knew he had told me, he's like, I got stomach pain and he'd lost some weight and whatever. And so at 79 years old, he probably thought something terrible was going on. So they do the friggin' autopsy and they find out that he had diverticulitis. And I laughingly say now, he just needed to eat some fucking spinach. Like, and there's, I'm not minimizing it to just that particular, like he wasn't feeling well. There's a lot of other, I told you, there was the isolation with somebody who is just reinforcing negative energy nonstop, who is working at isolate. I remember my dad coming to my house and he would be here for like an hour and he'd be like, "All right, I gotta go." And I'm like, "Why are you leaving?" And he was like, "Because that person is I don't want to deal with their shit if I stay too long." And I'm like, "Dude, you're with your fucking grandchildren and your son." Like,
yeah.
But it's crazy. It is.
Yeah.
It is a control. It is an isolation. It is all of those things. And it's, so the throughput is there on all of that. And, but even something that you sit there and you go, fuck, I think I might have a terminal illness. And then you find out like, you just needed to be Popeye for a couple of days and you'd probably be okay. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. Well,
like,
that's that, we can overthink.
Catastrophizing, right?
Yeah. And we can suffer more in imagination and in reality, like Seneca said. But it's to your point, what you said is what you want to see in the mirror, you're going to see in the mirror, right? And it's, as a man thinketh. And I'm not saying anybody needs to be naive or pie in the sky, but like, I think Goggins says it best, like that poopy pants mentality gets you nowhere, right?
Nowhere.
Like it gets you nowhere. Like, us sitting here, if we're going to state a problem with a solution, great, that's called problem solving. But stating a problem with no solution is just called whining. And so often, everybody's got a vent and everything like that, but so often we stay stuck in that, and we can catastrophize, like you said, and that's a cognitive distortion. And yeah, maybe it's just this one little slight change. I can't imagine that pain, man, and I'm just grateful that you were willing to share it and to do your best to try to find some silver linings in such a thing, and your brother and you are reunited, and it makes you think about the little things and the lessons. But it is the little things, and what I really love that you've emphasized is, to me, what Mother Teresa says. She said, "What can you do to promote world peace? go home and love your family. So it's like, what can we do to prevent a lot of bad things? Take care of those in our little sphere of influence, like as best we can. If we show up as have you described, maybe not perfectly every day. And, Nelson Mandela said, we don't ever fail. We either win or we learn. Like,
Yeah.
it's the first attempts in learning, and you fail forward. And I love it. Sometimes I'll just look up, like Abraham Lincoln, for example. Like, you read all the things that dude lost and sucked
Everything.
at.
Everything.
And then it's like president. And you're like, what the fuck?
Bro.
You know?
That is a case. Dude, I've never put those things together. I read whatever, the
Team of Rivals and all
Team of
that
Rivals.
shit.
Jeez. I knew Rivals. I couldn't think of what the
It
first
was on
one
the
was.
reading list. We know
Yeah.
we read it.
But like all of those things, all of those failures, and him either being, steadfast or dumb,
Yeah.
to continue to go,
Yeah.
put him in a position, right? That's what I said about like, are you prepared or do you have advanced notice, right? He was prepared. He had
That's
been
right.
prepared through all of that other stuff that had gone on, right? Like,
Yeah.
there probably wasn't a better person for those particular things,
His timing.
or those challenges that we're going to not just face him, but face our nation, right? And so, that's what, man. I've never put that together. That's good. And I've also never been included in a sentence with Mother Teresa, I don't think, in my life. So we're 2 for 2.
No, I mean it sincerely, because what you're to me describing is what Jocko talks about with extreme ownership. You're extremely owning the things in your sphere of influence, down to a poppy seed on a freaking hamburger bun, and saying, you know what, this is a teachable moment, and they come as they do, and you got to be willing to be there and be present to be able to show up for it. Because you could have just sat in your office and just said, you know what, hey, I got this podcast coming up, y'all do y'all. But instead, you showed up as dad, showed up as the leader, and you were there, and then you were like, I'm also going to go do this, but right now I got to do this, which is teach this valuable lesson. And you probably didn't want to, and it was probably inconvenient, and that's just the way life is sometimes. But another thing that you've really emphasized that I love, I heard it from Kevin Durant. I'm sure he wasn't the first to say it, but I seen you echo this through the whole thing, is that hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. And remember that, folks.
It goes beyond that. It's a system. So systems exist, and that's like the backbone of discipline, right? So like the system exists for when your motivation is no longer present.
That's right.
And so like it's that thought of like, it's not that I feel inspired to do this. It's I do this because this is what I do, right?
This is what I do.
And I probably butchered that, but yeah, that's the part of that, right? That's the part of building that muscle, right? Going, like I said, going to, and so I've done a couple of different combatives. I've never been incredibly, like, I'm no UFC fighter by any stretch of the imagination. That is not even close. You can get okay. There's a lot of people that are better.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to learn by not getting beat. You're going to get beat. You're going to tap out. You're going to get bested. Somebody's going to punch you really hard in the face. If you think you're going to go into a fight and like you're going to somehow not get hit, you're crazy. That's nonsense. Muhammad Ali got punched in the face.
Yeah.
People get punched in the face. And so those things are going to happen. How do you react? And the first time it happens, it's very different than the hundredth and thousandth and 10,000th time that it happens. I took my on Thanksgiving, I took my nephew to an open mat, and the reason behind why I did it was one, I just felt compelled to, but I thought it would be fun for him, and because he's never done anything like that. And then the other part of it was that you don't ever want the first time that like somebody puts their hands on you to be a moment where like there's something really on the line.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's that same thing, right? That recognition of like, yep, I've been here before. I remember I rolled with a dude a couple of years ago who was a black belt, I think, at the time. And I remember, bro, I had this dude in a total like choke, right? I'm squeezing. I almost shit myself. I'm not even kidding. I was squeezing this dude so hard. And he finally tapped out. He goes, that was a good squeeze. And I'm like, how are you still conscious?
Mm.
And, you know, he was conscious because he had had other people around his neck for years.
Yeah.
And he's literally resilient to that function. And so as as a metaphor, that is what happens in life. And it doesn't have to be the same thing over and over again. I'm sure it didn't matter if I had that dude in a leg triangle or if whatever. Like, the choke is irrelevant. It's the fact that you're going to stay in it, and you're going to be aware that I'm okay here. I can be okay here. And eventually, like, you get really good at just dealing with shit. And those seeds on the hamburger bun aren't going to draw a tear next time, maybe.
Yeah.
You know? And whatever it is. And again, I want to be very careful to not say that you should become callous, because I don't think that that's the answer. You know, similarly to, like, I don't steal another one that I think is a very important point to make, is that being strong isn't being cruel either.
That's right. Amen.
And you know, and like I said before, like, I've learned that lesson. I remember apologizing for doing that one time, and I didn't even know until about 8 months ago what I had actually apologized for, and that was like 2011. I just felt bad because I made somebody feel bad, and then I was like, oh, I just realized what I did there. But yeah, I mean, dude, there's so much that, you know, these conversations can carry out there, and all of the things that I think that I've said, and you're sitting there saying, like, here are the takeaways, and I've written notes about some of the things that you've said as well. Bro, that could be what you and I take out of this, man. And the reality is that what somebody else hears from this can be completely unintentional from either one of us, man, but it can be incredibly impactful. And again, I think that's why it's important to show up with intention, to be aware of your surroundings, right? Like, you know, there's some benefit in being observant and paying attention to details, right? I think when we're in the Marine Corps, they teach you to do that. It'll help you in your dating life if you do that, if that's where you are in the season of your life, that you're paying attention to the little details. Hey, man, that goes a long way sometimes. And so, you know, it's that you could have somebody that's in crisis, and you can be the one that picks up on it. It can be completely unintentional because it's how you've developed yourself to exist around other human beings. And I think that is, you know, the throughput where we owe it to ourselves, and we owe it to the people around us to be the best version of ourselves whenever you go out in public, right? Like, it's what we owe humanity.
Yeah.
And that's kind of, all right, soapbox done.
No, I think it's sound, and I feel like validated because I'm not like the only person that thinks like this, but I do think, especially with service members and veterans, you know, people are like, oh, be the best, self-improvement, self-actualization. I don't care about myself. Okay, great. But what you just said, you owe it to humanity, and you owe it to those around you, right? You owe it to, if you weren't trying and striving to be the best version of yourself, you're not always perfect at it, but that's the goal. That's where the effort is put into. Would you have been able to be there in that moment with your daughter today, or have that moment of unselfishness, or have the free time to take your nephew to an open mat? Like, all of these things, they have ripple effects into other areas of our lives. So I tell you this, I say this to all, is that maybe you seeking help is not just for you. Maybe it is for
sure.
those around you. And help comes in many forms. And to some of these things, you might see, well, Karl said the 3 C's: catch it, check it, change it. I don't know how to do that. Well, you can go see somebody that can teach you that. Or maybe you're like me, and you might need some medicine to also assist with you being able to do that. There's just to just sit in it, to just stagnate. I grew up in many a trailer park where there was some half full little shitty ass plastic pools outside, and that water sits there, and that shit smells like nasty.
Yeah.
And there's nothing there but sludge. And to my man Haas' point, like, stagnation leads to degradation. So it's like, let's be like Bruce Lee. Let's keep flowing.
Keep
you know
the
what I mean?
water moving.
The running water never grows stale. And I appreciate you for being not only somebody who speaks it, but does it, dog.
Yeah, there's a point that you kind of got me back on a trail that I think is important, especially for I'm going to make the assumption you're this particular audience. And you had mentioned it, and I know you're going through it right now. You had talked about your transition, and so I'm going to talk about that just a little bit.
Yeah, please do.
Is that I feel like the story I tell myself is that I was always pretty good about being me. And I never lost my personality. I also never had to create one to be a Marine. I was always me. Um, I had somebody ask me one time, tell me who you are. Who are you? And I'm like, what do you mean? Who am I? And we went back and forth. And I said, what do you want me to tell you? Like I'm a Marine gunnery sergeant? I was like, that's not who I am. And they said, I'm glad you said that because you would be surprised how many people say that. And it's funny because when you said introduce yourself, the first thing I said is a retired Marine, right? There is something
it's
called
relevant though. There's context.
it is for sure. It is. And there is a part of what happens, especially in the culture of the Marine Corps. And I can only assume that it works in other branches as well, is that you become enmeshed with whatever your persona is, right? I give my brother shit because he's a firefighter and he's running around. He's got a daggone t-shirt with a fire truck on it. I got another friend who loves to fish. That motherfucker's got shirts with fish all over it. Like there's a uniform, right? And so, sometimes we wear our uniform. When we are in the military, there is so much that goes into what that culture is. Mm-hmm. And it becomes a part of who we are. And so I can say, I'm Karl. I'm not a Marine. Like, I'm not that dude. You know me. I am for sure that dude.
That's right.
But that is not what's driving, right? Mm-hmm. That's the passenger in my vehicle. I'm still driving.
Yeah.
There are a lot of people who maybe have that in reverse order. And I used to tell my young Marines, I say, hey man, and it's been 7 years since I retired. The name tape that has your last name on it is there to make the name tape that says U.S. Marines a better organization. It is not the job of the U.S. Marines to validate the one that has your name on it, right? So your right name tape doesn't get anything from the left one. It's the left one gets something from the right one, right? And so
that's good.
You can't sit there and be like, I'm suddenly a tough guy.
Right.
Because fucking tan pelt, like get out of here.
I gouge. Record.
So like there's those sort of things, and the reality is the thing that I've figured out, right? And I took some people go down a slide to get out of the military, and they suddenly are in civilian world. I had an opportunity where I did DoD contracting for a little while post Marine Corps career. And so it's like a, Marine Corps light. I could wear a collared shirt and a pair of slacks. Still showed up to a command. I sat 10 feet from where I sat when I was on active duty. I did very similar things. And so it's sort of like a phasing out, right?
Yeah.
And then I got a job in local government, and I looked at my job description like a freaking to-do list, and I just started working. And if you know anything about local government, that is not the pace of local government.
Yeah.
And so there's this thing, and you're like, well, this is the way that I was successful when I was in the Marine Corps or whenever, right? And it's how many accolades do you see all the bullshit on my wall. Like, I'm going to become promotable and I'm going to become successful because I'm going to get my PME done. I'm going to be PME plus. I'm going to go to school and get, whatever. I'm going to go to command and staff. I'm going to go to postgraduate, whatever all of those things are that tell people this is how you become successful. Look at veterans on LinkedIn, fucking 2 master's degrees, Lean Six Sigma black belt, fucking PMP cert, Scrum. I don't even know what that is, by the way. They got all of these like certification and they're stacking all of these. I shouldn't talk smack because I put letters behind my name too, but they put all these letters behind their name and they're like, this is my pathway to success because it's what's worked for me in my previous career. And the reality is that that's not always the case.
Not always the case.
And the other part of it is that when you first go away and you get to your first duty station, wherever it is, talking about isolation a bit, you are alone. Mm-hmm. And you are with people whom you have never fucking met ever. Mm-hmm. And you build a bond out of that. And I think that there's part of that that's intentional. I think that there's also some intentionality in how the services recruit. They're not going to some affluent area. And I will say, I was never a recruiter, but I will say that if you want a vehicle to change the trajectory of your socioeconomic position, the military is not a bad way to get there.
Not a bad way at all. You heard it.
I am sitting in an environment that I never dreamed I would be in, and the vehicle that got me there was, free college through a GI Bill and VA loans and all the rest of that shit. So it just is whatever. But all of that to say, like, you go through this thing and you become isolated, and then you form this really tight bond with these people whom you've never met. And then it's crazy. You and I were stationed together 2011, 2012.
Yeah.
However many years, I don't want to tell you how many years ago that was now.
That
like
was
too many damn years ago. It's been a
while
bit.
ago.
But we stay in touch, right? I stay in touch with a bunch of other people that I've known that, from 20 plus years ago. And these bonds are formed, right? And you listen to, read a book, whatever it is. Why did you do what you did? You look at these Medal of Honor citations or, whatever they are. These dudes that were acting, and I say dudes, I mean that with no gender specification. That's just the way I talk. These people that do things that are selfless.
Yes.
Why? It's the bond. It's for the people left and right. That's what they always say. You're going to do it for the person to your left and right. And then you get into this environment. There's nobody to your fucking left and right.
Yeah.
There's nobody covering your flank and your six.
Mm-hmm.
And you've become, I'll use the word brainwashed to believe that you are operating in what you're doing has a higher purpose, right?
Yeah.
If that's not defined in the culture of the organization that you work in, it doesn't exist.
None.
And you are not working for a higher calling. You are working to work. And that is a slap in the face when folks get out and transition. And then what occurs is that same isolation all over again. It's the repeating cycle now. I am isolated and I don't have the connection with people that I relate to, right? I'm sitting here and you've listened to, I've probably said the F word 15 times,
That's how we talk, though.
That's how we talk.
But the world is like,
the world don't talk like that.
No.
And so like, there's that, right? You're like these, and so you can tell yourself these things. And some people say, well, I'm a veteran, so I'm better, right? I believe this, whatever. This is the story that I'm telling myself, right? But the thing that doesn't change is that I can sit here and say, I'm better than you, whatever. I'm still alone.
Mm-hmm.
And that is where, again, I'll talk about like the disease of despair comes in, right? I'm alone. I'm burned out. I'm stressed out. I don't know why these things that I've been doing that have been successful for so long are suddenly not successful. Why am I doing these things that I have been told and cultivated over a period of time? It doesn't matter if it's 4 years or 20 years or 40 years, whatever. Over a period of time, that this is the pathway to success. These are the things that are going to make me marketable. These are the things that are going to, ensure that I'm able to take care of my family going forward. And, reality can be a cold bitch sometimes, man. And that is the part where when we talk about veteran suicide, that is the part where who's there to catch you? Some organizations are squared away and they've got, these ERGs, right? These employee resource groups where, people get together and there's young professionals or there's veterans or whatever it is that they've got. And that's good. That's not many. And people are just kind of left to figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's when those self-fulfilling prophecies come back and that negative talk can come back and people can feel like I don't have anything to give and I fucked up and made a bad decision. I should have stayed in or I should have done whatever. You got to take it off at some point. So, whatever, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
But, that self-doubt creeps in, right? Like I said, failure is either a pathway to success or a pathway to self-doubt, right? And so you choose where that is. And then you've got to figure out, how do I become successful in this new environment? We talk about adapt and overcome. How often do you hear it? You hear it so much that you don't even think about it.
It's the fact that
you apply that
that
to your life, right? Yeah. And then you have to then say, well, it's time for me to adapt and I need to overcome whatever it is that I'm in and figure it out and through a healthy mean. And so that is the part where I feel like I wanted to be very clear, and share that part of whatever my thought is. Like, it's super valuable, but it's something that I've seen. It's something that I lived. I know that where I got is, I kind of shot for the stars, if I'm being honest, right?
Uh-huh.
So, I was like, yeah, I can do that,
Right,
whatever.
Right.
And sometimes you fail forward, right? And you can, but man, it can be a treacherous path sometimes, And so as we look at folks who have gotten out recently, or even not so recently, or planning on getting out, um, there is going to be, and I can sit here and say it all day long, there is a dose of reality that's going to come. And there are days where I go upstairs and I look in the closet at a pair of cami that's still hanging with the gosh sleeves rolled, and I'm like, man, it'd be cool to be able to go to work like that today. I got a picture of me over there. There's like two pictures. I got one. I'm sitting. I'm in a gunner's position, or in a tank commander's position on an Abrams tank, and another one I'm sitting in the front seat of a Cobra flying the thing, and I'm like, I used to have a really sexy job. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I wasn't. I was a pogue, but I was able to do some really cool shit, and I can look back and be like, man, it'd be awesome to do that again. But I gotta be where I'm at too, and I gotta make the most of this. And there's things that I can do now that I couldn't do then, and vice versa. And so it just is what it is. I went to the 250th Marine Corps ball a couple weeks ago, and one of my buddies was like, "Are you wearing your blues?" And I'm like, "No, bro." And I've outgrown it. and that's a metaphor too, right?
Yes.
I'm not a gunnery sergeant in Marines anymore. I've grown in the last 7 years, I hope, and so I've outgrown it. And that's the thing, is that, we got to keep moving. And I know you asked the question, so I'll let you ask it, but I feel like that's where we're going.
Yeah, no. First off, I want to say everything you just said was beyond valuable, and it echoes the same sentiment. I've been posting on LinkedIn a lot lately, and I've been trying to say, it's like a reverse psychology kind of thing. Like I say this and share this, so I have to live it. It helps me with, like, once I say it, I have to do it. Like it's just this thing I do with myself. Why am I vocal about my sobriety and different things? Because I have to live up to it. So, you got to talk shit, you go back it up, right? But talking sheep, actions
talk
speak.
Shit or eat shit.
That's it. Talk is cheap, actions speak. So I never want to be a hypocrite. So it helps me. But I am very aware that, and my man Garrett Biss talks about it a lot, man. He's down in Carolina, and he runs an organization, and he's got a TEDx talk about the trauma that all veterans face. Doesn't matter what their background was.
I just watched it. You just posted. I just watched it.
But my gosh. He talks about what you're saying, is that we lose our connection, our authenticity, and our meaning. And we also lose our ability to be authentic, which makes us not feel connected, which then, it's everything you just said, but I listen to it weekly because I want to put it in my head, not to manifest anything negative, but to be aware of it. So that way I can do with what I feel prepared. Like you do.
You can be prepared.
There it is. Epictetus 101. Yes. Want to say as each hardship comes, I was practicing for this, I was training for this, and it's still going to suck. It's still going to be a punch in the face. It's still going to be a chokehold on me, but maybe I'll be able to endure it a little bit better. It's something, and I also think it's true, maybe even for a Brady, right? Whenever you, or your brother, when he leaves the fire department, or anybody else that's in an occupation that defines who you are, it's great while you're in it. And guess what? Trace Atkins, you're going to miss this. It's going to happen, right? But you have to move forward. And I love how you said, and it wasn't in a negative way, it was just so sound in how you said, I've outgrown it. Like, I literally can't fit it anymore. It doesn't fit me. It's on someone else now to do that, and I got to move forward in these ways. So thank you. Everything you said, you were like, I don't know how valuable. No, you're being humble, and I appreciate it. And he's also bluffing. I bet you whoop your ass on a mat, but also you're humble, and I respect that. But what you said was very valuable, and if nobody else, I'm taking it. You know what I mean?
I appreciate
thank you.
I'm glad.
But yes, I will ask that question I always close on, man, is somebody out there right now, unfortunately, Kevin Hines, he talked about how, up until the moment he let go, he thought nothing was fixable in his life. And then when he let go, he realized that everything was fixable in his life, except for the fact that he just let go and, oh shit, what did I just do? I don't think all of us get to have that moment of survival, or I'm not gonna say us, but those who attempt. And I've been there, and I've been there. Like, I've been there in the time of knowing you, where I've attempted, and I've had dark thoughts, and I've had we can get there, or we can allow ourselves to get there. So if someone is there right now, unfortunately, just statistically speaking, and they're thinking about, hey, I'm ready to die. I'm going to take matters in my own hands. I'm going to take my own life. I'm going to die by suicide. They're contemplating that. If you had the opportunity to say something to them, what would you say, my brother?
So this is not an original. I'm stealing this for sure too. Happiness will wait.
Say again?
Happiness will wait. So we've talked about a lot, right? Like the enduring, how do you get to be a resilient person? It's built right? But it's built through trials. It's built through failures. It is what it is. We're all going to go through them. There's an opportunity. There will be an opportunity where this too shall pass.
Yes.
And happiness will wait. It will be there waiting for you. And I guess that's that's sort of the freaking like headline version of it, right? But I think that the other thing, if I'm being honest, like from a practicality, from a utility standpoint, it's you need to get around other people, and recognize that, and I've heard, again, I'll abuse this guy's name. Kevin Hines has said it on his podcast. He ends by saying, "You are not alone." And he didn't outright, at least on the things that I've listened to him say, he didn't outright say anything about isolation as far as being able to identify it straight away, or at least nothing that I've heard. But he does say, "You are not alone." And I think he repeats it several times as well. But I think that's the truth of it, right? And being somebody who is, the surviving son of somebody who died by suicide, it is fucking messy. And I can't imagine, and I say that this sounds sort of selfish and maybe a little trite, but like leaving the folks around you to sit there with that. What could I have done? What should I have done? I should have answered my phone more. I should have done this, that, or the other. The reality is that those people are probably there, and that we can all sit there and say we're all at the, kind of floating around the top of the funnel. And then, we can constrict our own world. And when we get near the bottom of the funnel, right, it becomes, again, a very lonely place. And that is the thing that I am, if there is one thing that is super clear to me, it is that isolation is legitimately a killer. And that is something that, we can't, you're not going to thrive in that environment. People are social. I know there's introverts and extroverts, whatever. But you can't survive without other people around you. It's just not going to work. Think about, like, in prison, the worst thing they do is put you in a hole, right? True. You're in isolation. Why do they do that? It's because it fucks with your head. You're talking about, like, interrogations and things like that. What do? You put somebody in a box by themselves. You know what I mean? You start doing things where, and then you can, if you're really being a jerk about it, like that, I know that there's techniques where you turn the lights on and off within a period of like 6 hours, and then that person starts to believe that it's been an entire day. And so what you can do is that you can expedite all of those things that are horrible where isolation exists, because now I believe that I've been here for a month and I've been here for 2 days, right? You fall asleep, boom, you wake up, you have no idea how long you were asleep for. And so those games can be played. And so why is that effective? It's effective because of the isolation. The sleep deprivation and all that shit sucks too, but it's effective because of the isolation, right? And so I don't know if there is utility in that, and I mean whatever, but it's just about being around people, man, and recognizing that, like, as dark as it looks, down the way, the sun is going to come up again. Happiness will wait. Amen. There are people that care about you. There are people that care about everybody. Friggin' the worst people on the planet had a mother that probably loved them, or somebody in their life that probably loved them, no matter what a piece of shit they were. You know what I mean? Like, it's true. Yeah. It's true. You see murderers in a courtroom, and their mom is sitting there crying because they're going to get locked up. Like, whatever. It is what it is. And so, those support networks do exist, for sure. And so it's part of it's a self-recognition, right? I just talked about this with the folks that I work with about, from a leadership standpoint, and looking at it and saying that you've got to regulate and modulate yourself as well. And if I realize that, like, I'm just taking everything on, I'm going to get to a point, it will happen, where I become ineffective. And you have to recognize when enough is enough. And you have to be your own sounding board, because you can go and say, this is a failure that is going to drive me to success, or this is a failure that's going to drive me to despair. And so it's be present in your own mind, in your own presence. But man, recognize that there's going to be a couple of days from now. You know what I mean? I was really, tore up. I've been, depressed. I struggle with that a bit, and there's days that fucking suck.
Mm-hmm.
There are days that I don't get out of bed. That's not a lie. And then there's 3 days later, and I'm like, that was fucking weird. Like, you know what I mean? And I couldn't even tell you why.
That's the thing. I don't even know why.
You're just like, what was that? Yeah, I just didn't want to do anything. I felt like shit for a couple of days, and I was, I was just depressed. It's just depression. You deal with depression, like, I don't know, deal with depression. So sometimes that's a thing. And then there's days where I can sit around and laugh and smile and joke, and everything is fine. Like I said, happiness will wait, and there's enough shit out there.
Yeah.
So.
No, I think it's beautifully said and well said, and I think it's fucking genius and so timely that you are emphasizing so much the point of isolation. And look, I love what you said. You were like, happiness will wait. It'll be there waiting for you. And they were like, all right, so that's the headline. But then the first thing you said after that was get around other people. Get around other people. Like, I love what General Smith has said when they did the message a few years ago. Some major reason. They did that shit in one take. I saw them. They did that in one take. That was so genuine. I've never seen leaders on that level speak like that. And the man said, give us a chance first. Just give us a chance first. And who that us is, man, you have no idea. So my point.
So many people.
There's so many people, and there's people you don't even know yet that are waiting to meet you, that your mess right now, you could use as a message to maybe connect with them, or you could help them through their struggle. Like, that happiness will wait. There's so much loaded in that. Like, you have no idea the children you may have, the spouse you may have again one day, the life you may lead again one day. And it could just be 3 days from now, and today sucks, and it is what it is. But that getting around other people or trying to find your other people, you have no idea. Like, you just have no idea. So reach out, but don't let one person be your single point of failure. Oh, Karl didn't answer the phone, so nobody gives a fuck. Don't put that on one person. Please don't ever do that if you're out there thinking about that. But man, I love it when you said get around other people. That
is a funny thing too, as we've talked about that a little bit, right? I can remember like, dude, there were times where like, whatever, being stationed somewhere and you get to a new duty station, you don't know anybody, and you go out to dinner, like, what am I going to do here? And I go out and I'm like eating dinner somewhere, and then it's like somebody else starts talking to you or whatever, or there's a conversation, you're watching a ball game or whatever. And those things sort of organically happen, right?
But you had to go. You had to get out your fucking barracks.
You had to get your ass out there. You had to go. And when I say get around other people, I don't mean go to a bar and fucking sit in the corner and drink your sorrows away. But like get into that environment where there's other people around. And I'm aware of how powerful isolation is, and so I will say that the flip side of that coin has to be equally powerful. And again, it's just don't you're just sitting there stacking the bricks to your own prison cell. You know what I mean? And it's sad to see. I know a young Marine who died by suicide June 2nd of 2022. And he was up front with me about, he's suffered some depression. I was like, bro, go see somebody. I fucking see somebody. Go see somebody. I mean, we talk about Marines, and for people that don't know, haven't ever actually met a Marine, I will say that they come in all shapes and sizes and of personalities. And this dude, if I could say one word about this dude, his name is Chris Ruffalo. If I could say one thing about this guy, he was the sweetest dude I've ever met in my life. And I remember going to his memorial service, and they were playing like a slideshow of photographs from his life. He was 22 years old. And I was like, this isn't complete. Mm-mm. I'm just sitting there looking, and I'm like, these are pictures from fucking high school and like a couple of years in the Marine Corps. Like, this book is not done being written. You know what I'm saying? And I remember just feeling that I was just like, there's so much more. And I know who that kid was. I know who that man was. and the power of his character was undeniable, right? And he had pain for sure. But again, you like sit there and you can watch a couple of pictures go by, and you're like, okay, so what happened? What else happened? You know what I mean? It's like when you're watching a damn, you're fucking binge watching some bullshit on Netflix or whatever, and it's the end of the season, and you're like what happened?
Yeah.
That's it? They're not making a second season? Like, what the fuck? And it's the same, and I hate to diminish it like that with that comparison, but that's the thing, is like, where's the rest of this? The story is not even close to over. And so again, I'm not a fortune teller, but I guarantee that there were brighter days ahead for him.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Yeah. And I do believe in my own outlook on things. If you're not meant to be here, you won't be. Yeah,
there's a force for that.
So let's not go trying to play with that.
No.
But in the moment of despair, because I've been there, you feel like you're doing people a favor, and people just want the pain to end. But all I'm going to say is your pain ends, but everyone else's begins. And that's not to sabotage you or to bring you down, but you have to take that into consideration and realize that even though your pain may end, theirs may always now forever begin. And also there may be a better day not far ahead. So just wait.
Absolutely. It's one of the things that I think, and then I'll shut up after this, but I told you I got, medically dropped from drill instructor school, right? And I remember going into it and I was like, oh, that's going to be like challenging, whatever. And I was like, thousands of other people have done this same thing.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be fine. I'm going to be fine. Right. And so like the reality is that thousands of billions of other people have done this before.
That's right.
And we can too. Yeah, absolutely. We can too. Yes.
We together. We the people. Like it or not, we all we got. Please never apologize. You come back here anytime on this show, man. You have shared some I got notes because I went down and play on my phone. I was over here in my you know what, I pulled out my journal. It's my journal, I keep notes in, but I was with my therapist recently, and I was going through and I was like, yeah, well, my notes, and she was like, what, like, she was like,
that's your kid.
I was like,
I know exactly what that is.
Yeah, my kid got into my journal and was drawing, and she was like, oh, because we was about to have a whole nother conversation. I was like, oh shit. But man, Karl, dog, hey, I just tell you, thank you, man. Thank you for sharing, for being vulnerable, brother, and just being a light, bro. I really do believe in that. And what Viktor Frankl said, man, if anybody's ever read it, man, Search for Meaning, I'm gonna tell you right now, you want to talk about a hard day and keep moving on, lost his whole family, like, you can have another happy day. But one thing he said is, what is to give light must endure burning. And people don't always appreciate that about being a light. So I know you've endured some burning, man, and I appreciate you being willing to share those messages and use it as a message tonight with me on the show. And
For sure.
It may not help the whole world. I know our egos want the Million Man March, or at least mine does, like Dr. King. But if we just reach one, then it's worth it, man. And one is too many. Brothers, sisters, humans of the world, wherever you're listening from, you could be listening from another planet. I don't even care. I appreciate you listening and tuning in. As I've always said on this show, we are sponsored by, shout out Keith Sweat, nobody, baby. But we are inspired by the First Amendment and the words of Dr. Maya Angelou. If you don't like something, change it. If you can't change it, no, she said change your attitude. Thank you, Karl, man, for being here, brother. I appreciate you. Simplify. One team, one fight, man. Like it or not, we all we got. I love you, man. Thank you so much, and best to you and your family, dog. And thank you for sharing with us. Ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, man.
Always welcome, brother. Always welcome back, too. This has been episode 74 over of the Real Resilience Talk podcast, where you might hear some bad words, but hopefully you heard some good words, too, because it was real. Much love. Make good choices.